Hi, this is Jerry Cantrell, and you are listening to Appetite for Distortion with Brando.
You know where you are. I said, get out, find me
one. This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 300. My name is Brando, and perhaps we have our biggest guest to date. Speaking of dates, his new solo album, Brighton, comes out October 29th. Talking about Mr. Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man. What's going on?
Not too much. I'm just, I'm honored. I'm privileged. I want to do the Wayne's World thing. I'm sorry. Maybe, I don't know if you're good at taking compliments, but it's... I mean, you just...
much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, we'll get into a lot of things today, and it's not about my feelings. It's about yours. So I'm curious, are you also excited with... I mean, I got to imagine you are with Brighton coming out October 29th, but as a non-musician, I'm curious, when you're working on an album, are you excited? Are you eager? Are you nervous about people hearing Brighton in its entirety, October 29th? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think you go through a whole range of emotions, being a creator of work, of art, whatever the form is, it's the path is usually pretty thin. It's pretty poorly lit, and you just kind of are feeling your way until you find your way to something. And so that can be kind of overwhelming and intimidating, but it's also kind of exhilarating and exciting when you fight through that and come out the other side with something that you really dig, and that part of the process has always been attractive to me, the challenge of that, and trying to make not only songs but a body of work and an album that you feel proud of, and that you want to share with the world.
And even at this stage of your career, with all your success, I mean, how do you feel, I guess, about putting out a solo record just by yourself? Is there a certain, I don't know, do you feel like layers peeled away since all the focus is on you as opposed to everybody in Alice in Chains or other collaborations you've done? Is there more pressure or less pressure with putting out a solo record?
It's it's kind of the same, and it's kind of different at the same time. So, obviously it's almost a misnomer, putting a record out by myself. The whole solo. The record thing or whatever, but because it took a lot of people,
sure, right,
a lot of people working with me on this to make it happen, and that's the case with any record. It takes a village, and the differences are the game is pretty much the same, but the players in the field are a little different. So
I like that analogy. I like that.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk sports with you later on because I know you're a sports guy. So,
sure.
So
yeah.
One of those people that helped you with the album, and maybe it's just a song, you have to educate me about it, is Duff McKagan.
Yeah.
So Duff McKagan, he's on the single out right now, Atone. And I know you guys go way back, but before maybe we get some more about your friendship with you and Duff and your Seahawk fandom. But how did this song come together? How did Atone come together with Duff?
Well, it's an idea that I've been thinking about for a long time and never really found the right parts to put it together to be kind of in its best form. It's just it was a thought, and it finally landed and came into being about a year and a half ago. And Duff was somebody I always have in mind. He's a good friend of mine. His band was really influential on us, when we were starting out. They they were one of the key bands that kind of inspired us, to form a band, as well as a handful of others. But yeah, I think he only intended on playing like a song or two on the record. But once I got him over here, I'm like, hey, would you mind playing on one more? Hey, how about one more? And I had him go through about six songs or so.
Oh, wow.
And so it was probably more than he intended, but he got, he's so effortless in the way that he plays. His musicality is unparalleled. The guy's just really super creative. He's written some of the greatest tunes and bass lines in rock and roll history, and he's just a cool dude, man. He's my friend.
Right on. So I alluded to it before, and I just don't want to lose it. I know it's a silly question. I know you will care, but it's about sports. So with the, I'm going to ask a question, and there's going to lead into two sports questions, actually. This is from Satya Mortha, who's from Canada. So a more exhilarating experience opening for Metallica at Giant Stadium in 1998 or watching the Seahawks win the Super Bowl at MetLife Stadium.
Yep.
So which one was more exhilarating, opening for Metallica or watching the Seahawks win?
They're both pretty cool, they're both pretty cool. So it'd be tough to pick one or the other. I'd probably have to lean to the Hawks, going to New York and seeing the Hawks just trash the Broncos. It was awesome, and I was there with my buddy Duff, and my friend Heather and Todd Schuss, our longtime assistant, Baldy with Alice in Chains. It was pretty epic,
Right on. And
finally brought it home.
Yeah, that's right on. And as a Giants fan, I was rooting for you guys. I'll say that. And one more this is just a quick thing before we go back to the album. So what do you think about the name Kraken, the Seattle Kraken, the new hockey team?
I think it's awesome.
Fan? Okay. Right on.
We're a state of the sound. You know what I mean? So a beast from the deep is very apropos, I believe, in Seattle. The Seattle Kraken kicks ass. Yeah.
Okay, right on. Sorry, I didn't want to lose that. I was thinking about that, and it's just something. If I ever get to interview Duff, I don't know, because as a sports person that also likes music like you guys.
Oh, we all dig it. No,
yeah.
We did. Sean and I have talked about it. Duff, a few friends. We're all behind the Kraken. That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. We need to get a goddamn basketball team back.
Oh, I know. I got my Sean Kemp jersey in my drawer. So
that's just a sin that we don't have the Sonics back yet.
See, I knew it. See, I didn't want to go there. I knew that would be sensitive feelings for you.
Yeah.
So the album is still a few weeks away, but Brighton coming out on the 10th. What can you tell us about the the title track?
It's a really strong, straight up rock and roll tune, and we just shot a really cool video for it with Gilbert Trejo. A really cool young director, a lot of energy. His dad's Danny Trejo, and
I was wondering. Okay.
Yep, and he's really talented, and it's a great song. And early on, when we were kind of gathering material, my co-producer on the record, Tyler Bates, and my engineer and co-producer Paul Figueroa, we all kind of gravitated toward that tune, and I remember kind of thinking that would be a great title for the record early on, and the guys were like, "Yeah, man, it's perfect." It's a cool record, man. It's a real rock and roll record. That song in particular is kind of a cornerstone. I'm just really excited for people to hear it. I'm really proud of it.
So let's talk about some of the tracks then. Yes, it's a great, absolutely great hard rock record. But since it was the last song that stuck out to me, because it's the last song I listened to, last song of the album, what is Goodbye about?
Well, it's an Elton John Bernie Taupin song, and it's the last song on Madman Across the Water. And I actually covered that song when I did my last two shows before the before the world shut down in December 2019. Did 2 shows in LA, and we closed both nights covering that song. And Elton has always been a big influence of mine, and I just love the body of work that he and the band and Bernie put together, over the years, and it's always remained really special and close to my heart. So we were actually talking, Tyler and I, about doing a song kind of like that because of how my voice kind of fit with it. And he's like, that's kind of different, like not really like a rock tune or whatever, just kind of like a cool orchestrated, simple piece that's really emotive like that. And then he was like in the same breath, shit, why don't we just record that? And I'm like, oh, absolutely, let's do it. So we did. We had Paul Figueroa invited Vincent Jones, great keyboard player and arranger, and he came in and did the arrangement for that. I knocked out the vocals and wanted to send it to Elton just to get his okay on it. I wouldn't feel good putting something on my record unless he was okay with it. And so I sent him the track, and he dug it, and it occupies the same space that it occupies on the record that it came out on. It's the last song of Madman Across the Water, the 9th track, and on my record, Brighton, it is the 9th song on the last track. Yeah.
I guess I'm showing my age, and I should give back my classic rock card because, I'm an Elton John fan, and yet that somehow didn't occur to me that was a cover. So it
is one of his lesser known tunes, and I'll give away a little secret. Elton told me, he's like, man, I forgot all about that tune. I had to Google it and see what record that was on.
You know what? You made me feel better that the guy who wrote the song felt like, okay.
So there you go. Don't feel so bad. Elton even forgot about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry. That I was like sitting here shaking my head. I'm like, really? Wow. You know what? Since we're talking about Elton, and I know I don't have you here forever. Just a brilliant song, and I want to give credit to more listeners who sent in questions. This is from Erica Bromowitz and State of Amorica podcast, which is a Black Crowes podcast. So Elton played piano on Black Gives Way to Blue, that brilliant
yes, he did.
Alice in Chains song. Can you tell us how that happened?
Yeah, we started really slow and did like a benefit show for the tsunami relief, as well as a lot of other artists around the world, and we thought that would be a good reason for us to get back on stage and to kind of help out, do our part in trying to raise money for people who were devastated from that event, and that's where it kind of started, and we started kind of after that started thinking about maybe making music again, and we went through the process of a couple of years of doing some shows with William Duvall and invited him in, and then we started writing, and I had this song that I'd written for Lane, and Black Gives Way to Blue, and it ended up being the title record, which was very appropriate, I believe, on our comeback record. And I wanted piano on it because I think my friend, my Tim Dawson, who used to be my guitar tech, put some keys on it on the demo, and we were thinking about, who do we want to have play the piano on it? And I think Todd Schuss, I got to give credit to him, Baldy, our longtime assistant, and Alice. He's like, call Elton, and I'm like, yeah, I think sure that dude's got better things to do than play piano on a backing track on somebody else's record. And he's like, hey, you never know unless you ask. Right. So I wrote him a little email, and he got back to me, and he listened to the song, and he's like, I love this song, and I really dig the sentiment, of you honoring Lane and saying goodbye and moving forward yourselves, and so that's how that all came about. And I think it was the last song that we finished in that session for that album, and we all flew to Las Vegas where Elton was, and walking into the studio and seeing his piano in the middle of the room and seeing my lyrics on his piano was pretty heavy, pretty great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Appreciate you sharing that. You told a funny story, and obviously I'm sure you were able to, you noticed the name of the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, and we were talking about Duff.
Yeah.
But you told I don't know, maybe there's more to this story. I forget where it was, but you were telling a story about when you met Axl Rose in 1988, and you gave him a demo tape, and he threw it out. Like,
yeah.
what songs were on that? Is there any more you can elaborate maybe on that story? Have you ever spoken to him about it?
I did speak to him about it in a club in New York, and he actually came across a room. We had never met before, really, other than just kind of meeting backstage at the show in Seattle at the arena, where I gave him the demo tape. I can't remember what was on it, but like I say, they were an important band to us, and that Appetite is one of like a handful of records that is like one of those epic things that kind of transcends space and time in the band. It's just like the worldwide massive record, and it's perfect. But I was in a club, I think I was with Billy Duffy in New York, and Axl came in, and I saw him come in, and he kind of like locked eyes with me, and I'm like, and then he kind of just started walking toward me like with a purpose, and like, I'm like, okay, and he comes over and he's like, I heard you tell that story about me giving you that demo, you giving me a demo tape. Are you still with that girl that you met there? Because I had told the story. That's where I met my girlfriend Courtney at the time.
Okay.
And he was more curious if I was still with Courtney, which was pretty cool.
Okay.
And we chatted for a little bit, but it's just one of those kind of fun things. You're proud of your band when you're kind of unknown, and they were pretty damn huge, and kids, people still give me their demo tapes all the time too. It's old school. Here, check out some stuff. We used to pass around demo tapes amongst each other, and that's how we kind of learned about other bands and back in the day, before you could just do it all electronically.
Very, very true. And I want to give credit to a listener fan of yours, Leah Peters from Germany, for that question. And I got this from Twitter to go back to what you're doing currently. Papa Pucci, this is such a weird handle. Papa Pucci, sorry, and Riff Lord Cantrell. If you could please ask, since he's so polite, who is the opening band for the JC Brighton tour, which is happening next year? Knock on wood and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Well, we intend to go out and throw down on this record starting in March, and I'm sure we'll figure out a way to make it happen. I am considering a few bands right now, but I have not decided on one, so I don't have anything etched in stone. As a matter of fact, I don't have the whole band etched in stone, because most of the folks that played on the record have their own bands and are on tour, like Mr. McKagan right now. So I'd love to have them, but we'll see. I do think that Greg Puciato from Dillinger's, who sang with me on the record, I think he's going to be rolling with me. I believe Gil Sharon. Sorry, Gil. Greg got a double pump there. Gil Sharon, who is also in Dillinger Escape Plan, is going to be on drums, I think. And Tyler Bates is threatening to leave his studio writing soundtracks for movies and come out and play some guitar with me too. So that's four of us, and we got to probably get a bass player and maybe somebody to play keys or strings or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. We still got a little time. We'll figure it out.
I think it was smart of you to announce it now and wait until next year, because of just all the uncertainty. Was that the thought process going into it, or was it just the natural of like, hey, we're releasing an album in the fall, this is when we're going to tour? Because of the apocalypse, everything that's going on, it's difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird time. I've been rolling around for 55 years, so we've gone through some pretty tumultuous times in our history, and we probably will again. But things over the last few years have certainly been strange. But you got to roll with it and figure it out. Sean and I talked about it during when things started to really kick in, and we started to kind of see how serious this was going to be, and try to project how it was going to affect the world and also what we did in it. And, we as Alice, and then I also as myself thought, we thought it would be probably wiser just to give it another year and see how things shake out, and so I was intending this record to be out September last year,
Yeah.
So, but that's all right, we're going to see what happens. I think Alice may be talking about doing some shows next year too, so should be a fun and very busy year for me. So I'll be out touring this record and doing some shows probably with Alice as well.
Okay,
so,
cool. You beat me to the punch. I was going to ask what Alice in Chains has in the future. So since I got
we're talking about it. We're trying to plan something up with another band and go out and do a fun tour maybe next year.
Awesome. Well, Jerry, I hope to see you on the road solo. Not technically solo as we've discussed, but with your band, Alice in Chains. When you come to the New York area. This was such a pleasure.
Standing with a bunch of other dudes, instead of the regular dudes.
Hey,
and then you can see me stand with the regular dudes too.
I'll bring my fiance. It's okay. She's a Dave Matthews fan. I got to bring her to the dark side.
There you go. Come on.
Oh, Dave Matthews, isn't he from? Are you friends with him? Isn't he in Seattle? Doesn't he have a home in Seattle?
I've met Dave a few times. He's cool, man. He's a good songwriter. I like Dave's vibe.
All right, my fiance will be surprised and glad that I asked that. So thank you so much, Jerry. This was an honor. I hope we get to do this again.
No problem, man. Anytime.
How cool was he? I'm never too cool to admit when I'm nervous, and I was nervous, but right away, his voice was just super friendly, and all my my nerves just kind of went away, and I was able to do my thing, and just awesome. So I hope to get to do it again, not just for my own sake, but for your sake, because a lot of questions you asked, and I can only get to so much. But I appreciate all the questions submitted on social media. And if you follow on social media, I was initially hoping episode 300, I put it out there, would be Fernando LaBase, the manager of Guns N' Roses, and I never really had a belief that would happen, and just because I've never made contact with him over the years of doing this podcast, 300 episodes in. And if you go back a few episodes ago, I did the Don't Ban Me episode with Rick Dunford, and I explained just what had been going on behind the scenes about interviewing guests. And I'll tell you, this was another guest, because this is just, I have to let you know that it's affecting the show. Maybe it affects me. It affects you, the listener, and perhaps a bit of communication from. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the podcast, but I just would love some communication so I don't have to be nervous about Jerry Cantrell canceling on me because there's a Guns N' Roses connection, because that's happened to me before. Which I don't need to go down that rabbit hole again, but just even though episode 300 is Jerry Cantrell, wow, it's a high standard. But the point being, the invitation to Fernando is open-ended. Whenever he wants to come on, Beta 2, let's make it a family affair, and let's just talk about whatever they want to talk about. Just to come on and share their personalities. That's it. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to push you for anything. Just like with Jerry Cantrell, I could have asked him all these things that would be potentially inappropriate or just wouldn't make sense to ask them now in this interview when we're talking about different things. And I'm just not that guy. I'm just not. I'm not that interviewer. And it was nice to get to know Jerry's publicist the day before we did this interview, because it had to be rescheduled. We had a time set, and this stuff happens. And I was on the line with his publicist, who was going to connect both of us on the phone. And we're just talking, buying time. He's checking to see if he can get Jerry every now and then, every 10 minutes. Ends up being like a half an hour we're on the phone with each other. And it's just very cool to get the perspective of a publicist and what they look for in an interviewer. And, even when we had to postpone it just today, but in my head, as well, I'm bringing up this, what I guess I'm going to call it just GNR paranoia about booking guests, just because I thought maybe it had been canceled because of what had been out there, what's been out there third hand, because I've never spoken, again, firsthand to any of the
members of Team Brazil that certain people aren't allowed on my podcast. I mean, Bumblefoot will go on other people's podcasts to talk about Guns N' Roses, but something about being on a Guns N' Roses themed podcast that makes it weird. And that, again, he's not the first person to say that, nor the last. And at a certain point, I don't really, because he's a nice dude. He's a really good guy. And same thing with Kat, the photographer for GNR. She seems really awesome. Would do this podcast if it wasn't a GNR themed podcast. Would want to be interviewed by me if this wasn't Appetite for Distortion. That's why my Duff interview was canceled. I don't even know if Duff knows about it. It was just a management decision. So to hear the perspective of the PR people, and also I got to speak to one of his management people a few days before. So I was vetted. You know, everyone was very friendly, but I was vetted, and everyone was excited for Jerry to talk to me. So that's what made it, calm me down a little bit, where I'm like, oh, I'm getting paranoid. Oh, did Jerry cancel on me? No, they said management, they're excited. No, it's fine. And with that in mind, I know it's no relation, and there were some fun comments from you, the AFD show listener, about Matt Sorum being postponed. Oh, management got to him. Well, he has nothing to do with GNR anymore, but you never know who's still friends. But it's circling around in my mind. But I have to calm down, realize I'm in therapy, I'm on medication, everything's going to be okay. And the date is for the Matt Sorum reschedule is still TBD, to be decided. So that's the best way, the best reason, I say, to follow on social media is to get your questions in so I can ask them to Jerry Cantrell, to ask them to Matt Sorum, so you can find out about these interviews in between the podcasts. That's how the conversation continues. So again, if you haven't heard, new Twitter, at the AFD podcast. I made the mistake of sharing my own Guns N' Roses concert videos from, I think, both MetLife and maybe Hershey Park. Many of you are sharing your videos from this tour, but Twitter said, we're going to warn you twice. And even though we'll just say, well, we'll block the video, not to even remove the tweets. But if you do it one more time, we won't tell you. Maybe it's in the fine print. I don't know. But to wake up to all my followers, everything gone. Oh, God. So, whatever. Worst things can happen. We still have the podcast. And it's not like I had hundreds of thousands of followers. So just let's get back to where we were. That's where I want to be. Okay? So at the AFD podcast, that's how you can submit reviews or submit applications to do a review, I should say, on this Guns N' Roses tour. And if I'm getting all these new people that have been saying they've been listening to the podcast since day one, and it's the first time I'm meeting them, and it's awesome. So if I can give you an avenue, a platform an experience rather, to talk about Guns N' Roses, your experience, to give you your review of the show, and I want to expand it eventually, and hit me up with ideas. I really don't have a set schedule in my brain. It's kind of, this is my own thing, and I do what I think is best at that time. It may not always be the best thing, but I try. So if you want to submit, I got some requests about talking about what it's like to be an Australian Guns N' Roses fan, some of the big Aussie shows that have happened down under. I would want to do that for a lot of countries. What is some of the big, my fans in the UK, the listeners in the UK, Scotland, all these other countries that I may never visit, which pains me to say. Give us that experience. What is that like? So that may continue, assuming GNR continues this leg of the tour and going overseas, so we can do reviews of the actual shows. But let's go in the past, like we did with the riots, the riot reviews. Those were a lot of fun. So as we continue, as we get guests like Jerry Cantrell, Glenn Hughes, just awesome, awesome people. We're going to get you, who are also awesome. You just may not have a Wikipedia page or be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all those things. Which is no slight to you. You are still awesome. Sorry, I just watched that Blues Clues thing. I don't know if any of you, as I have the Mr. Mailstone thing. Don't worry, I won't play it. But that's where I got it from, Blue's Clues, and that just came out. Nostalgia. Steve from Blue's Clues, all these years later. So that's what this place is nostalgia, talking about GNR and in the current, because GNR is an active entity. Remember when they weren't? So this is good times in GNR land, I think. So again, the best way to keep up to date with the contests, I wish maybe one day we'll do up to date with the guests, up to date with the reviews. If you want to submit, social media, facebook.com/the AFD show, new Twitter at the AFD podcast, Instagram, Appetite for Distortion, and please follow on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Just find Appetite for Distortion on YouTube. So until the next episode, next guest, next review, when will that be? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it. I don't know if soon is the word.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.